Hi everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to make this bikini for your Barbie, and you'll need about 108 single rubber bands, and it will be wearable. It'll be exactly like this one. Let's start with the bottom. We're taking 2 single white rubber bands. You can make it whatever color you want, and we're coming from the second peg to the third peg in the center, and our loom is in the staggered configuration. Taking 2 single rubber bands, coming from the second diagonally to the side like that, and continue on the other side. That's what you should have so far, and this will be the back of our bikini, and we'll make it a little longer than the front. Again, with 2 single rubber bands, we'll come down 3 times. And we'll repeat on the other side. 2 single rubber bands. Coming down 3 times. And we'll close it off by coming diagonally on both sides. And let's come down the center of the back of our bikini with 2 rubber bands, and closing it up to the 5th peg in the center. This is the bottom of our bikini where it connects. 2 single rubber bands from the 5th to the 6th peg, and again we'll come down once more from the 6th to the 7th peg. 2 single rubber bands will come diagonally from the 6th diagonally like that, and repeat on the other side. And now this is the top of our bikini. We'll come down twice on both sides. Let's close the top of our bikini off with 2 single rubber bands, coming in diagonally like that, and the last 2 single rubber bands closing our bikini up. So that's what it should look like. Let's put some holding rubber bands, taking a single, twist, double it, and I'm putting it from this peg to that peg near the bottom of our top bikini, taking a single and looping it from there to there for a holding rubber band. And let's cover the bottom, taking a single, twist, double. We're covering the 4th peg to the 4th peg, and taking a single to put it on the 2nd and 3rd peg across for holding rubber bands. And taking your last single, we're coming in the center peg, and we're looping it off 4 times. Now taking our decorative bands for our swimsuit, mine will be pink, and this one I made here is blue, and you can also do a single on the band on the side here, but I just did 2 single rubber bands, and I'm just putting it on the side pegs for the top like that. Let's start looping our bikini, going in the center peg, past our capping band, grabbing the top 2 bands and looping it up and onto itself. Go back in, grab the next top 2, and mine is going to the left side, and going back in, grabbing the last 2 bands, it's going to the right. We're going to go in the side peg now. I'm on the right, grabbing the bottom 2 bands, loop up and onto itself, continue on that side all the way to the center peg. Repeat on the other side, go all the way in, grabbing the bottom 2 white rubber bands, and looping it up and onto itself. Continue the side and to the center peg, and let's finish up the center. So our top of our bikini should be done. Now we're going in the connecting part of our bikini, looping the bottom 2 bands and onto itself, and continue up the center peg, grabbing the top 2 bands, looping it up and onto itself. Again, reach in, grabbing the next top 2, and loop up and onto itself. And let's loop up the first side rubber bands for both sides. And we'll stop here for the time being because we have to attach the sides together from the back to the front. So we'll take the front of our bikini off the loom. And be careful that the rubber bands doesn't come off your loom. And let's loop up the center one more time. So taking the center 4th rubber band, the bottom 2, and looping it to the 3rd peg so it doesn't slip off. And let's loop up the sides here. We want to connect these decorative bands to the first peg on either side. So we are going to stop right there on the 2nd peg so it doesn't stretch too much. We're going to take a little bit off from the 4th pegs of the loom. Again, be careful it doesn't come off. And now we are attaching the decorative bands to the first peg on your loom. Now let's reach inside, pulling the decorative band on the outside of our 2nd peg on both sides, like that. That's what you should have, pulling the decorative bands on the outside of the 2nd peg. And now reach in the 2nd peg, grabbing the bottom 2 bands and looping it up and onto itself. Repeat on the other side. Reach in the first side peg and looping to the center peg. Repeat on the other side. And go in lastly in the center 3rd peg, grabbing the bottom 2 bands and looping it up and onto the center 2nd peg. Taking your single slip knot band, put your hook in the center 2nd peg and tying your bottom of the bikini off. And let's take it off the loom. Careful not to break it. And you can add some polka dots if you want on your bikini, but that's the back of your bikini and this is the front, and we can hide our slip knot rubber band by tugging it in inside our bikini here. So that's the bottom of your bikini. Let's make the top of our bikini, taking 2 single rubber bands, whatever color you want, and coming from the center 1st to the center 2nd, and we'll come down 4 times with 2 single rubber bands down the left side of our loom. Get to there, again with 2 single rubber bands. I'm coming from the 4th peg diagonally, and we'll continue up diagonally for our first triangle of our bikini, and coming back down once diagonally with 2 bands. And before we close it up, we are taking 2 single rubber bands and coming down the center peg to close up the top of our bikini, taking 2 single rubber bands and closing our triangle down to the left side of our loom. And let's come down and close up the first triangle of our bikini. And you should loop the bands in that configuration. The next 2 bands will be the center right here, and you can make a different color. I'm going to use white. So taking 2 single rubber bands, whatever color you want, and just connecting it on the left side of our loom down 1 time. And let's come down 1 more time for the other triangle of our bikini. And if you want to add polka dots, you can by looping a single band 4 times on these, wherever you want the dot polka dots to be. Now taking 2 single rubber bands, coming diagonally for a second triangle of our bikini, coming all the way to the right side of our loom, and coming back down our triangle over top of our bikini, and coming down the center. And you want to follow how I looped the bands on these pegs. And now coming with 2 bands to finish off our triangle. And now let's do the bottom of our bikini all the way to the end of our loom on the left side with 2 bands. Take a single band at the very end of our loom and capping it off by looping it once. Now go under that cap band, grab the bottom 2 bands and loop up and onto itself, and continue to where our triangle starts. We're here. Now grabbing the top 2 bands, loop up and onto itself, go back in, grab the next 2 bands and loop up and onto itself. Now we want to loop the center, reach in the center peg, grab the top 2 bands and loop up to the center. Before we go on, let's add the string that goes around the neck. And for this, I'm using a different color. I'm using pink, and you'll need to use 3 single rubber bands, whatever color you want, and tying together, creating a slip knot. So taking single rubber band and getting it around, getting the loop there, and pulling one side through. This knot is done. Taking the next one, pulling it through and looping it onto your hook like that, and then like the slip knot, you pull one side through. So however you can make your knot to tie your rubber bands together, it should be 3 rubber bands, single rubber bands tied together, and we are attaching it at the tip of our triangle of our bikini from the one side to the other. So it should be attached on those 2 pegs on the top of our bikini. And now let's finish looping up, going in the center of our first triangle, grabbing the bottom 2 bands and looping it up and onto itself, and we're looping the triangle, the tip of our triangle, down to the center peg and continue our triangle down to the left side of our loom. And let's finish looping the left side to the second triangle. Once again, reach in, grabbing the top 2 bands, looping it up, reach back in, grab the next 2 bands, looping it up, the center peg now, grabbing the top 2 bands, and it should be the center, looping it to the other center, and continue up our triangle to the tip of our bikini and looping that back down to the center peg. So that's what it should look like so far. Reaching in the center, grabbing the bottom 2 bands and looping it to the left side of our loom. And you should follow my looping for the triangle. And now I'm just going to continue all the way to the first center peg, just looping it up and onto itself. Now let's take a C-clip and I'm attaching it on one end of the string of my bikini that goes around my Barbie's body, and I'm going to attach it to the other side, but first let's take it off the loom. Carefully attaching your C-clip to the other side before it comes apart. Getting your C-clip right onto the other end off the first peg. So there's the top of our bikini for our Barbie. And it should go on her like this one. So I'll come back with the finished bikini on our Barbie. So there's your Rainbow Loom bikini for your Barbie. I hope you like it. Thanks for watching.